I shoot a lot of high-end materials for both TV commercials and shows. I use the camera I feel is best for the job, often mixing DSLR material with Alexa or Epic material. Every camera is different. They all have assets and limitations, whether it is compression, color space, light sensitivity, size or weight. I am often asked if DSLRs can match the image quality of high-end production cameras. The answer is no. But often DSLRs excel in many other ways, and image quality is often less important than practicality when it comes to getting your shot. I constantly test the limitations of all the cameras that are available to me, so I can make informed decisions on which camera to take to the shoot. These are simple tests that most of you can do at home to find the latitude and stability of your camera's image. The cameras I am demonstrating today are the GH4, the Blackmagic Production 4K, and the Canon 60D. This is not meant to be a review of these cameras. They all have different assets. What I need to know is their limitations. First will be to find out how much detail can be saved in grading if the image is clipped or overexposed. The procedure is to take the exposure up to 100% IRE and flatline until you lose detail. This is now a clipped or overexposed image. I used a waveform to check that my image was clipped, but you don't have to, you can eyeball it. A clip looks like this. The solid whites on the screen will lose detail. Then on your edit software, or if you have color grading software, bring the levels and brightness down till the detail returns to the blown out areas. With the GH4, no matter how far I took down the brightness and flattened the contrast, there was absolutely no detail in the lost data at all. This is not really surprising and the norm for most data cameras. Next, the Blackmagic. This was a wider shot due to the 35mm Academy sensor, so there was more clipping, as the subject's shirt was white and clipped before his skin tone. After lowering the brightness and contrast, I found there to be a lot more detail than I would normally expect, even from a high-end camera like the Epic. This amount of clip was savable on the Blackmagic. Next, the 60D. I exposed up to clip, I took down the brightness and contrast, and was only able to save a bit of the detail at great expense to the whole image. Next was the grain test. The process for this is to underexpose your image by 5 stops. Then push the image in post up to a luminance and contrast that you're comfortable with, then see how much grain there is. First, the GH4. At 5 stops, I was quite surprised how much light there was on the frame. After pushing the image, the detail on the subject was good, and the black areas that were very underexposed still had detail. The image looked pretty good, but there was a huge grain appearing in the very dark areas. I graded these areas up to take a better look at the characteristics of the grain elements. They were huge, probably exasperated by compression. The Blackmagic was almost black at 5 stops under. These cameras are not known for being very light sensitive, especially the 4K. I find the 2.5K much better in low light. I pushed the material and got a pretty good image. The color was a bit dull, but generally I was able to pull a usable material from 5 stops under. That's quite impressive. To check the characteristics of the grain, I graded the material up to the max. Still, I could hardly see any grain. Next, the 60D. This camera captured less light on the image than the GH4 at 5 stops under. I pushed the material to the max to see the characteristic of the grain. It was definitely there, different to the GH4 and not quite as obvious. Next, a chroma test. I test chromas on all my cameras as I shoot a lot of composite projects. I set up a small green screen in close proximity to the talent and lit both at the same exposure. This is not how I would light a chroma normally if I were shooting a real project, but this is a test, so I did not want to help the cameras with post techniques. I keyed on a Final Cut timeline, I color picked and went with 1 click for all cameras. The GH4 keyed relatively well, slightly harsh but clean. The Blackmagic was cleaner and softer, but the green needed to be choked a little bit. You can see it coming through in the fine areas of the hair. The 60D was very soft and clean, but had the least detail and lost the fine hair here in these areas. If we look at them side by side, we can see that they all key acceptably. But if we zoom in 800%, we see the GH4 has quite bad artifacting on the fine detail. This is from its high compression. The Blackmagic 4K is actually fine. This is what I would expect from an Alexa or an Epic. The 60D is quite harsh, with some compression. Next, I studied the live material and assessed the aesthetic. All the cameras looked different, but they all looked fine. So what did I learn from these tests? I would not have a problem shooting with any of these cameras, but I would stay away from the GH4 if I expected to have to push any of my exposures in post. The camera does have high speed and is light and compact. The Blackmagic would be my choice for chromas, and it would definitely give me the most latitude in grading, as I can push dark images without grain and save detail from minor clips. It has no slow-mo though, and is the heaviest of the three cameras. The 60D has an interesting color space that works well with mixed light, but I would not use it for shots that may clip or crash, and there are much better cameras for keying. I hope this film has been useful to you in finding the strengths and weaknesses of your camera.